for more on this, we're bringing in criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Bob Bianchi. I appreciate you being here. I want to jump right in and get your insight on whether this should be a state-level case. We are hearing directly from the Brooklyn district attorney on this. Let's listen to what he has to say.
Second, very simply, state law is more significant in this case. You know, there's a possibility with life without parole. That's not an option in the proposed charge that was mentioned, arson, under federal statute. So you're looking at more time in this particular case.
So, Bob, do you agree with the DA here? Could Zapeta face more time behind bars in a state-level case?
Yeah, and this is a state-level case, and that's where it should remain. As the head of a prosecutor's office on the state level, this is where most murder cases are tried. They're most capably understood by detectives, by prosecutors. The law favors the state prosecutors. Now, there are times, like in Mangione, where it makes sense to bring federal charges in, too, to exert maximum leverage. But in the Mangione case, different from here, there were a lot of federal jurisdiction that was tripped by Mangione as he went along his crime spree. That's not the same here. It's not an interstate facility being used. It's not federal jurisdiction here. So for them to file a federal charge, if they do, the state should clearly prosecute the case first, in my mind. That's what I'd want as a former homicide prosecutor, leverage that maximum sentence, and then usually the federal case winds up getting pled away if there's a conviction at the state side.
And Mayor Eric Adams' office says they are working with ICE to explore criminal charges against Mr. Zapeta, they say, under the federal arson statute. What happens if the case is taken over by the feds?
Well, the feds can't take the case over. You see, now there is sometimes not playing well in the sandbox. These are two independent jurisdictions, and each one of them may have a right. Now, I think the federal charge in this particular case would be attenuated, or it's really kind of weak in my mind. But then they've got to get together as a team. I've done this many times. We have our federal partners, we have our office, and we say, what is the best place where we're going to put our time and energy? Who's going to go first? Who's going to support who in order to secure a conviction and get the maximum sentence possible? And that is in the state of New York right now. So if the feds do file charges, maybe they'll wait. But if they do file them right now, I hope they let the state go first.
You know, I do want to switch gears and talk about the Mangione case, because he, of course, is facing both federal charges and state charges. In your mind, is there any risk of a conflict there, like his lawyers are trying to point out now? And do you think it should proceed on the federal level first here, because there is the possibility of the death penalty, rather than at the state level, where New York simply does not have that as an option? They do not have the death penalty.
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, the prosecutor's going to have to sit down and say, look, each charge is different. The federal charges and the state charges are different. That's why there's not double jeopardy for trying them. They're two different judicial systems. So they're going to have to sit down and say which evidence, again, is the best and strongest evidence to secure the highest level conviction. Because the death penalty is on the table, and that is the ultimate punishment, the defense lawyers are now in a really tricky bind here, because now the life of their client is at stake. And when that's true, and I did death penalty work for many years, the defense switches their mode from he didn't do it to trying to keep him alive another day, another hour, another second, because the evidence is pretty overwhelming here. And in this particular case, there are, in fact, federal charges that are right on point here. This is one where I could see the feds taking it over, because the evidence is clear, the law is clear, and the penalty is significant.
Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.